What is going on, guys? My name is Devon Adams and I'm here back again with another video about Excel functions. Now, I know many of you don't use Excel. It's very easy in this case when you're having like real big, large quantitative amount of data and you really don't want to, do the addition, subtraction, multiplying. It doesn't matter. But today I'm going to show you how you can make Excel easier in your life. So we're going to be talking about the different functions that you can do in Excel, to make it a little bit easier on your part, make it easier for everybody. And shout out to my partners, Shannon and Bianca. Thank you guys for helping me do this. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so basically, people don't know what functions in Excel are. But what are Excel functions? These are to calculate and point information based on the data that we receive. It makes it easier to input data and for us to calculate whether we're multiplying or adding. It just makes everything more simple. But in this case, we're going to be, separating the data, finding the biggest, average. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. So these are the functions that we'll be focused on today, such as max, the min, percentile, the average, and all the other functions that we'll be focusing on today. These aren't hard to get. I kind of had to adapt this last year in my sophomore year, but I'm sure it will be easier for you once you get a hold of the functions that we're going to be talking about. So other than that, let's go ahead and get started on our first function. Okay, so we're going to be putting max and min together because they kind of correlate of what we're talking about, but it just pertains to a different value. So as we stated that the max function is useful to getting the biggest value in the data set, while the min is used to getting the smallest value in the data set. Now, let's say for example that we have our real estate data that's given to us depending on the size of the particular house. For example, we see some 2300s, some 2500s, but we want to find out what's the lowest what's the lowest size, pardon me, of these houses, and what's the biggest size of these houses. So to do these functions, we must set the equation for this function. For max, we have equal sign. You put the equal sign, and then you open parentheses, and we're going to be taking the cell out of the size, which is 2300, which is on 2, because that's where the size starts, and we're going to end our cell at 23. Then we got to put the semicolon so Excel knows what row that we're stopping at, what column. So in this case, we're stopping at C23. So we're going to put our parentheses on the outside, and when you hit enter, it will give you the max of 2600. So the biggest number out of the size is 2600. For min, you'll do the same thing, but in this case, we want to find the smaller value. So for this case, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to put min after the equal sign. We're going to open up our parentheses. We're going to put C2, because that's what we're starting off with for the size. And we're going to put the semicolon, and then we're going to put the C23 where we stopped at 1900. And we're going to close the parentheses, and we're going to find out that our min is 1700. So the smallest value for the min is 1700, and the biggest value for the max is 2600. Now, the next thing that we're going to be moving on to is the AVDE function. This returns the average of the absolute deviation of the numbers provided, and is also a built-in function in Excel, and is categorized as a statistical function that can be used as a worksheet function in Excel. So in this case, we're going to go back to our data set, and we're going to take the prices of the houses, and we're going to determine the average deviation of these houses, or the absolute deviation, sorry. So to do this, you're going to go to a different cell, as I post over there next to the baths, about a cell over. And we're going to be putting in the equal sign. Now, in this case, now remember, you always got to put in your equal sign if you want to find like the sum or the average or anything, because Excel knows how to calculate those specific cells, that ones that you're describing. So in this case, we're going to we're going to put the equal sign in the empty cell, and we're going to type in AVED, EV. It should already come up on the Excel. So you're going to hit enter, and then you're going to open your parentheses, and you're going to put A2, because that's what we're starting off with, because in the first cell, we have, the first column rather, we have the price, bedrooms, and such, but we want to get the first data. So we're going to pick A2 to A23. We're going to put the semicolon and put 23. We're going to cross that out. We're going to put the parentheses around the 23, and we're going to get $37.15. So Excel knows how to do the math already. Excel just needs the range of the data that you want in order to calculate it. So in this case, for the absolute deviation, our total is 37.15, which is the average deviation of the data set for the prices of the houses. Rather, is average function. This tends to the measure of central tendency, which is the location of a center or group of numbers in a statistical distribution. Finding out grades, like for example, I know a lot of teachers use this, professors use this to calculate grades. Students use this too as a beneficial factor to find out like where their grade is, and basically if it's bad, they can improve, and if it's good, oh yeah, it's good. But in this case, we're going to be taking the data from our real estate data, and we're going to see like the percentage of how many houses own a garage or not. My house doesn't have a garage, so we just got to park our car on the sidewalk. But we're going to be taking our data set that we have here that we've been using for the past couple of functions, and we're going to take that into the percentage of the houses that have a garage. So to do this, we're going to put our equal sign in an empty cell, and then we're going to type in average. It should already come up, and then you're just going to click it, and you're going to open parentheses. You're going to type in G2, because that's where we're starting at. I know garage starts with a G, and it's already in the column G. So we're going to pick G2, that's a cell, and we're going to put our semicolon, and we want it to stop at G23. We put our semicolon, we close the parentheses, and we have a total of 64%. So that gives us our average of how many houses have a garage. So in this case, 64 houses in this data set have a garage. So we're going to be talking about the percentile function here next. It functions the next percentile from a set of value. For the example, we're going to take the bathrooms of a house and examine the next percentile of the data. So in order to do this, we got to put our equal sign, hit percentile, type it in, should already come up. Open up the parentheses, type in H2, that's where we have the bats at, and then hit your semicolon, and then put H23 because that's where we want to stop the data. And hit comma. Now we want to take the 50% of the data that we have here. So we're going to type in 0.5 for percent. We're going to close our parentheses, and then it will give us 2. So the percentile of the data set is 2. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the STDE function. This function calculates a simple standard deviation of a supplied set of values. For this example, we're going to take all of the houses and find the deviation of the prices of houses. So we did survey over about 100 houses, but in this case, we're going to short the data due for example purposes. So we're going to take the standard deviation and open our parentheses. We're going to pick A2 because that's the price of the house. And like I said, for example purposes, we're going to take A106 because that's the last of the data set. And close parentheses, and then it's going to equal 47.31. This is the variance for all of the prices of the houses for the whole entire data set. Once again, this is shortened for example purposes. All right, the last thing we're going to be talking about here is the standard deviation population function. This returns the standard deviation of a population based on the entire population of numbers. It's kind of similar to the other standard deviation function, but it's based on individual cells. So we're only going to be taking a look at the first data from the first set of houses. So for this function, we only took the prices of the first 5 houses from columns A2 to A6. And we're going to set up the data here. We're going to put our equal sign. Then we're going to put the function code rather. I don't know how they say it. And then we're going to open parentheses, and we're going to put in each individual cell, and then we're going to put a comma after it. So A2, comma, A3, and so on until we get to A6. And put a, close your parentheses, and hit equals or enter on your keyboard, and then you'll get 46.64. And this is the answer for the standard deviation population function. So that's it, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching about this short video about functions. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.